Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this presentation on Dementia UK and Admiral Nurses. Dysgwyr dwi for Welsh people, so croeso I bawb. That's as much as you're getting on the Welsh side this morning, but who knows, maybe next year I'll be able to do the whole presentation in Welsh. I do know that dementia can be quite a scary topic. Especially if you've seen the Alzheimer's adverts on the TV, where it shows a very sad end to a life. You've probably seen the one where the chap comes in and he is given a bar of chocolate by his daughter and said, "Oh, my daughter used to give me one of these," and it's very, very sad. Can I just reassure you it's not going to be that sad this morning? When I was growing up, right through, I would say, into my 20s or 30s, the thing we were most scared of getting was cancer. Cancer was the worst disease that you could possibly get. My uncle died a very painful and, in some respects, very lonely death when he had cancer. And it left a fear in us that whatever happens, we mustn't ever do anything that would get us the disease of cancer. We were absolutely terrified. Nowadays, if you are diagnosed with cancer, some of the first things that you hear the doctor say is, "You have got a tumour." But science has moved on so far now, this is not the end of the world. We have so many treatments and the outlook is good. That wasn't the case when I was growing up. You've probably heard of Macmillan nurses. There were no such thing as Macmillan nurses when I was growing up. When I started back in 1977, there were just 2 Macmillan nurses who rode round on their bicycles to help as many people as they could. Nowadays, there are 4,300 Macmillan nurses, and when you see the adverts on the TV now, they're quite positive. When the adverts for cancer were on the TV when I was in my 20s and 30s, they were very much like the dementia adverts now. They showed people with bald heads, with drips in their arms, dying in hospitals. And it was all to raise money for research. And that was great, because the research has worked and cancer now is not so scary. When you see the adverts on TV, try and think of it in that way. It's to raise money so that research can go ahead and so that dementia itself becomes less scary, just as cancer has done now. But sometimes dementia feels very, very scary simply because we don't know enough about it. We hear the word dementia, we hear the word Alzheimer's, and immediately we have a fear that shoots through us because we don't really know what it is, and the image we have in our brain is the one that we see on the TV. So I'm hoping today that we learn a little bit about dementia itself, and that we learn about Dementia UK and the amazing Admiral nurses, which do the same for people with dementia as Macmillan nurses do for cancer. So let me share some facts with you first. Dementia. Dementia is an umbrella term, and it's used to describe a range of symptoms associated with cognitive impairment. There are many different kinds of dementia, but the most recent ones are Alzheimer's, which 50 to 70% of people with dementia have. Vascular dementia, 20 to 30% of people have that. Lewy body, 10 to 25% of people have that. And frontal temporal, and 10 to 15% of people have that. So you can see the word dementia covers more than one type. Did you know that every 3 minutes, over 900,000 people with dementia are cared for by 700,000 people? And perhaps more importantly, 40% of carers experience mental health challenges. Now I'm hoping that you have got with you paper and pencil because we're going to have a tiny little quiz just for you to find out how much you think that you know. So there's only 10 questions and there's no prize, but there's nobody who's going to know whether you've got them right or not. It's just for you really to know for yourselves. What change happens for all of us as we age? We lose the ability to learn new things. We all eventually develop some form of dementia. Our data intake, processing and output speed slows over time, or we all get hard of hearing. Which do you think is the answer to that question? What is dementia? Is it problems with memory? Is it another word for Alzheimer's? Is it something all older people get? Or is it another word for a failing brain? Which do you think is the answer? One of the most often questions I get asked is this: how long do people live when they get dementia? How long do you think? Not long? 1 to 3 years? About 3 to 5 years? Anywhere from 6 months to 30 years? Or about 10 to 15 years? How long do you think? What's the first change with dementia? Is it the brain begins to shrink? The chemistry of the brain changes? The person's personality changes? Or the person's behaviour changes? Which do you think? What parts of your brain will change if you get dementia? The memory and language centres die. Thinking and behaviour centres die. All areas have some changes at about the same time. Or most areas have some changes at different times. About how many types and forms or causes of dementia are there? 2 to 3, 5 to 10, 20 to 40, or over 100? What do you think? What percentage of people over the age of 85 show some active symptoms of living with some form of dementia? This one's a more tricky one. About 40 to 50%, about 75 to 80%, about 10 to 15%, or less than 10%. What percentage of people under the age of 70 show some active signs of living with some form of dementia? 1%, it is very rare. About 5 to 10%, about 25%, or over 50%. And this is a question people always ask: what is an effective treatment for dementia? To engage with and respond to people based on their abilities in that moment and modify environment and task expectations to match their current preferences and interests. Use medications that have central nervous system impact as a primary approach for managing distress or challenging situations, to limit environmental challenges, control social connections, and continue to exclusively use previous interests and preferences in care planning, or finally, focus on a healthy cognitive fitness and physical exercise regime combined with a rigorous nourishment and hydration programme to slow dementia progression. Sorry, they were such long answers. And finally, which of these is true regarding an individual's historic preferences? An individual's history of likes and dislikes should be considered, as preferences often remain similar as people progress through dementia. And which types of dementia in particular an individual likes and dislikes may shift and change? Both of the above, or neither of the above. So, how did you do? What change happens for all of us is our data intake, processing and output speed slows over time. What is dementia? It's another word for a failing brain. How long do people live when they get dementia? It is anywhere from 6 months to 30 years. What is the first change with dementia? It is that the chemistry of the brain changes. What parts of your brain will change if you get dementia? This was quite a tough one unless you know the answer, because again you have to go on what you see on adverts and on the TV. But it is that most areas have some change at different times. Perhaps the next question was the one which surprises people the most. About how many types or forms or causes of dementia are there? It may surprise you to hear there are over 100. Chats. Sorry, I just realised somebody put some chats in, but there we go. What percentage of people over 85 show some active symptoms of living with some form of dementia? So many people on this question do put about 75 to 80%. It is actually only 40 to 50%. And what percentage of people under the age of 70 show some active symptoms of living with some form of dementia? When I first did this, I will admit I put 25%, but in fact it is only 5 to 10%. What is an effective treatment for dementia? They were very long answers, but the one that was correct is engage with and respond to people based on their abilities in that moment and modify their environments and task expectations to match their current preferences and interests. And finally, which of these is true regarding an individual's historic preferences? They were both true. Well done you if you got all of them correct. If you didn't, don't worry about it. It means that you've learnt something new about dementia, and that means that I've actually done my job. So I represent Dementia UK. I am one of their ambassadors, and one of the things that I do is try to speak to people in Wales about the care of Dementia UK and the Admiral nurses. So I want to tell you how we got the name Admiral nurses. You can see a lovely picture there of Joseph Levy, who was always known as Admiral Joe. Joe got dementia, and as you can read, the family realised how lacking specialist support for the family was. And they decided, it wasn't the government, it wasn't some specialist somewhere else, it was the family who decided to develop the specialist dementia nurses and called them Admiral nurses after Admiral Joe. And the idea was that not only supporting the person with dementia, but actually to support the whole family. Dementia UK passionately believe that everyone who needs the support of an Admiral nurse should get one. So, why did I get involved with Dementia UK? This is why I got involved with Dementia UK. My friend was diagnosed with dementia. I really enjoyed spending time with my friend. We climbed mountains in Scotland. We went abroad together. It was really good fun. But I kind of knew that something wasn't working quite right. The odd forgetful moments, the odd moment when they were just not there. Occasional stumbling when we were walking, despite the fact we'd walked up mountains. And other little things that just made me wonder. I knew that in their own family, their father, their mother, and 4 brothers had all been diagnosed with dementia. And so I thought, yeah, I think it's happening. And we talked and we talked and we talked, and eventually they went to the GP. He was diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's. Now, the reason I put that picture there and this picture previously was because I know you will have formed an opinion about which one of those had dementia. And I'd be interested to know whether you chose the right person. David has been my friend for a very long time, and it's hard for me to come to terms with such a lively man suddenly being diagnosed with dementia. And I didn't know what it would mean for our friendship and for the group of friends that we spent a lot of time with. This is David's life now. He still climbs mountains. He spent time with his grandchildren, and very little has changed in so many respects. But his memory has got worse. He can't do as many things as he did. We climb mountains, but they're really hills now. His cognitive ability has declined. But David is still David. When he was diagnosed, he made the decision that he was going to live life to the full. He was going to make a change for himself and for other people. And so along with me, David joined Dementia UK. Since then, in the 3 years that David has had dementia, he has set up a group that runs the park run, which he never ever did before. And then last year he decided that he wanted to do something to show that when you get dementia, it does not have to be the end of the world. There is the diagnosis, and as you have seen on the adverts, the end of life can be tough. But he wanted to show that there is life between the diagnosis and the end. And so in the last year, this has become his life. He has gone Crown Green bowling, taken part in the walking festival, gone to the cinema, and has sorted out a Christmas meal for over 40 people. Has gone carol singing. has organised an Easter treasure hunt, has done a summer jamboree, done the Dementia Park Run, joined the RNLI, gone to the You'll Never Walk Alone walking group, has gone 10-pin bowling, has been to the pantomime, does all the park runs, goes out and tells talks, has started to work with Llandrillo College to set up a computer course that is dementia friendly. He supports other initiatives. He goes to the Prestatyn Carnival and represents Dementia UK. He set up time for a cuppa in his own house. He does a positive dementia drop-in. He has a positive information folder for people, and he has set up a dementia cafe church. David's life is fuller since he has been diagnosed with dementia than it ever was before. It's made him realise that he has a life to live. So rather than dementia being the end of the world diagnosis, it actually has given him a bit of an impulse to start to live life better. And one of the things he does say is this: people who wonder if the glass is half empty or half full miss the point. The glass is refillable. And what he says now is he's had to change what he's drinking and fill the glass with something else, but nonetheless, it's still there. I thought it might be interesting for you to hear what his wife wrote when we went to a conference some while ago. David was given the diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment in September 2022. After a battery of tests, he received the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease dementia in 2024. Some things were tricky to begin with, trying to find the right information and where to go for help. It was great when we were told about the Admiral Nurse Helpline. Who knew that dementia had specialist nurses in the same way as Macmillan nurses for cancer? While we haven't used the helpline yet, just to know it is there has been of tremendous comfort and reassurance for us. It's easy to look back and dwell on the things that didn't work so well for us then, but we have decided now not to waste any more time looking backwards to what could have been, but instead focusing on enjoying the here and now and planning the future. Last time we spoke at an event, we mentioned that we were moving house. Leaving our home of 20 years brought its challenges, but we navigated them with hope and humour, and we now love being closer to friends and family, and we are now living our most positive and active life. David has always said that the diagnosis was not the end of the world, and he's been proved right. Everything is now different, but nothing fundamental has changed. We still live the same life we always have, and we have learned to make room for the dementia. We know that things will progress, so we are putting things into place before we need them. That way, they have already become part of our normal life now, and not something that we have to introduce when suddenly needed. We have chosen dementia-positive paint for the walls of our new bungalow. We have started compiling memorable photos, putting together a playlist of favourite songs, and David is writing in his Grandad book, a book of memories to leave to his grandchildren, but it will also double up as a book of memories to talk about when they become difficult to easily recall. We are very lucky to have some wonderful friends and family who are coming on this journey with us. It is not David and I who are living with dementia. It is David and I and all the others that have chosen to journey with us, and we wouldn't want to do it without them. I still struggle with being identified first as David's carer and then as his wife, and I will still correct people who use this order. I am his wife and will always be. And if at some point he needs a carer, then we will have to look at sourcing one. It's easy to dwell on the what-ifs and what could have beens, but in doing so, it's easy to miss the blessings of here and now and the promise of future possibilities. So how has our life changed since the last event? Well, David and I are now part of the steering group UBT Positive and Active, UBT Dementia Positive, Active and Aware, and we are part of an advisory group for Plaza Brennan, Capel Currig Outward Bound Centre. When we went to visit Capel Currig, I asked a question and the instructor just looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I wasn't sure which one of you had the dementia." This made David feel great. David is also currently working with the UBT steering group lead to establish a new active life initiative for those still in good health and wanting to lead a more energetic lifestyle. He is also working with the steering group lead and Llanrillio College to set up a dementia positive computer course. He goes to the gym, which is a lifelong ambition realised, does easy circuits and take part in the weekly park run. This year we've booked 7 holidays, one of which was a cruise which we enjoyed very much. The last time we went on a cruise, David boarded the wrong ship, and that was before dementia even entered our lives, so I did say that I'd have to keep an eye on him this time or I might not see him again. David has had a stay in Glenclwyd Hospital and needed a pacemaker. The care and consideration given to him there was superb and we are very grateful to them. We visited Anita at the hospice before Christmas and are now looking at ways we can help her dementia work in the future. We are part of a group researching and setting up a local dementia cafe church. We still have grandparent duties, which we enjoy thoroughly. David still walks a dog and goes walking and litter picking with his good friend. In fact, we have never been busier. We have also realised that it's easy to blame the dementia for struggles that may be nothing to do with it. David's collapse with his heart was nothing to do with the dementia. He just needed a pacemaker. On another occasion, David was struggling to read, which we again put down to the dementia. It was only when a friend pointed out that David's glasses weren't sitting right that we were able to rectify the situation, and David is back to reading beautifully. The images portrayed on adverts and in TV dramas have not accurately reflected our life with dementia. We recognise that some of this is to do with the speed in which David's dementia is progressing, but we also believe that it is mainly because of our attitude towards dementia. In a recent conversation with friends, we discovered that there are other diseases that we all deemed to be worse than dementia and that we would hate to be battling those. So, we have decided to count our blessings. Last year we said, there is life between the diagnosis and the end stage, the same as with any other disease, and we wanted people to know this. This last year has brought some challenges, but we're realising more and more what we can do and not what we can't do, and what we can gain as well as accepting what we may lose. So as always, we look to the future, so it won't surprise you to hear that we have already booked 4 holidays for next year. It's good sometimes to hear from people who are actually journeying with dementia, how they are operating and how they're dealing with the difficulties that come with it. I am constantly in awe of David and Mary, and I hope that their story has given you some hope alongside the things that you see on the TV. But as they said, one of the things that they were most amazed about was that there is such a thing as an Admiral nurse. An Admiral nurse is a specialist dementia nurse who, as I've said previously, are there not just for the person with dementia, but for the whole family. They are experts in dementia. They support families with the many complex challenges of the condition, and they provide free specialist advice, support and understanding whenever it is needed. So at the moment, there are 468 Admiral nurses throughout the UK. There is one Admiral nurse who covers the whole of North Wales and only one Admiral nurse who covers the whole of South Wales. They normally work with families at home and in the community, in hospitals, in care homes, in hospices, and they work with the Admiral Nurse Dementia Helpline. So what is the Admiral Nurse Dementia Helpline?
A diagnosis can be quite devastating for someone with dementia. They feel defined by it and often don't know where to turn for support.
It's important for carers and family members to reach out early and to be able to know that they're not alone. This is where we come in. We are specialist dementia nurses, known as Admiral nurses.
We are that listening ear. We provide tailored support for all aspects of dementia.
We are here when you need us. You can speak to us for free on our helpline and through our virtual clinics.
The Admiral Nurse Dementia Helpline is a free national telephone service. You can call at a time that suits you. If we don't answer straight away, you can leave a message and we'll call you back. You can also email us or fill in an online form and an Admiral Nurse will get back to you. No question is too big or too small. We're here to listen and offer expert advice, support and understanding. You might prefer to contact the helpline if you need to speak to a nurse more immediately during the evenings or the weekend.
In our free virtual clinics, you can book a private 45-minute appointment with a specialist dementia nurse by phone or video call. These are done remotely, so if your family are located in different places, you can join the appointment together. You might prefer to book in a virtual clinic if you don't need to speak to a nurse immediately and would like to pre-book an appointment at a time that is convenient for you. Because it's arranged in advance, it gives you the opportunity to get someone else to look after your loved one, so you can have that focused time with a nurse. On both the helpline and in our clinics, you can talk to us about any aspect of dementia.
People can use the helpline to talk about what they're going through. Sometimes it's the first time they've been able to put their emotions into words.
Admiral nurses are there to support the family no matter what question they ask around dementia.
It's about educating the family that their experience is unique and not to compare with anyone else, because it's the diagnosis affects people differently and everyone is an individual as well. We are here for you.
So that is the helpline. I have to say it is one of the things that I really encourage people to engage with. Not only people who've got dementia, but people who want to know more about it. It's an amazing thing. If you leave a message, they will always get back to you. It may not be on the same day, but it will certainly be within 24 hours. But one of the things that you heard Joe say there was about the virtual clinics. The virtual clinics are astonishing. On a virtual clinic, you can talk to an Admiral nurse and you can work it out to be a time that suits you. But perhaps what's most amazing about the virtual clinics is it doesn't matter where in the world you live. You can still talk with an Admiral nurse with your family. The one that I know worked best was somebody whose mother was living in Ireland. They were living in Australia. Their brother and sister lived in New Zealand, and they had another brother who was working in Malaysia at the time. Mum was diagnosed with dementia and they just did not know how best to support. And so they contacted the helpline and they asked for a virtual clinic. And at the right time for everybody, all of them joined each other on the Zoom call with the virtual clinic and talked with a dementia. I'm sorry about the sun's just coming in. They talked with a specialist nurse and were able to put in place care for mum before they were able to come back to the country and look after her themselves. I don't like the lockdown. I didn't like COVID. But what's come out of that is this ability for people all over the world to be able to connect with each other on things as we are doing today. But when it comes to health, to be able to talk to a specialist with your brothers and sisters who are in completely different countries about someone that you are so concerned about, I think is in itself amazing. You heard Joe. Joe is one of the specialist Admiral nurses. What they have now done is they have trained some of the Admiral nurses into certain aspects of dementia. So you can now ring someone or arrange a virtual clinic with someone like Joe. Joe is the specialist nurse for people whose dementia have been caused by sport. You'll have seen it in the news only just recently, how footballers are now saying that the risk of dementia is much higher because they head balls. It is actually true. So, as a consultant Admiral nurse for sport and dementia, he offers expert skills and knowledge in helping people with a diagnosis and their families, particularly within sport, to face these challenges of dementia much more positively. He works with some of the first division footballers. He's currently done a lot of work with 2 or 3 footballers who have developed dementia from the Wrexham football team. But he's not just available to the professionals. He's available to the father who played football amateur for however many years and is now getting some symptoms that don't seem right. He can actually ring, and rather than just speak to an Admiral nurse, he can speak to the specialist Joe. There are specialists for those who have early onset dementia. Those of you who've been following the story in Coronation Street, that helpline is there for them and their families. There's a helpline specifically for children of people who have dementia that they can ring and they can talk about their mum and their dad. Some people have developed dementia in their late 30s, early 40s. There are so many different ways now that people can connect with these specialist nurses and just find out more and more about the disease. Locally, we just have the one Admiral nurse in North Wales, Anita Hagan, and she is based at St Kentigern's Hospice. I'm afraid I don't know the one for South Wales at the moment, but I will find that out for you. But perhaps the most exciting thing that has happened recently with Dementia UK is the Nationwide Building Society. The Nationwide Building Society have been amazing, and they have opened up their branches to involve dementia clinics. These are free, life-changing support for people affected by dementia. That may not be a person in your family, it may be your friend, it may be a person in the community, it can be your own worry. I can't remember where I put my keys. I've done something slightly strange. Am I getting dementia? It is also there for that kind of person too. It offers face-to-face clinics with an Admiral nurse. Not all nationwide branches, but most now, are offering appointments which are held in a private space in the branch. You don't have to be a nationwide member to access this service. You can book a free confidential appointment that will include getting a diagnosis, understanding symptoms and changes in behaviour, practical tips for carers, choosing a home or residential care and emotional support, and much, much more. You don't have to go through your doctors, you don't have to go through your healthcare provider, you don't have to go through a hospital, and you don't have to even go through Dementia UK. All you need to do is go onto Dementia UK website and find the bit where it says nationwide clinics. And this is the page that will come up. And it is really as simple as this. All you do is you go onto the month, you find whichever month it is you want to go, you look down the pages and you find a date, you click on the date, and then you click on the start time. By doing that, you have booked yourself an appointment with a specialist dementia nurse. All Admiral nurses are absolutely lovely. They're kind, they're patient, they're helpful. They are there to help people get through what can seem to be one of the worst times of their life. And I really highly recommend both the helpline and the nationwide clinics. Of course, none of this can happen without your help. So I always put a little bit of a plea in at the end, because you can help. Whether you have dementia, whether you don't have dementia, whether you know someone with dementia or you don't, there will be someone in your community that has dementia. And so these are the ways that you can actually help us. You can donate so that research can be ongoing. You can hold a fundraising event. You can contact me to come to your fundraising event. I can see if there's an Admiral nurse that is nearby that could come and be there and talk to people. You could, like myself, volunteer. There are loads of different volunteering things you can do. It doesn't have to be giving talks like this. It can be answering cards for people. If they've made a donation, they'll send you some cards and you just write a thank you note and send them out. You don't have to pay for that, all the postage is paid. Just little things can make such a big, big difference. When we talk about dementia and when we look at the adverts, when we watch the TV programmes, they always show us towards the end of life. And it makes us think about our own end of life. So one of the things that you could do, get it out of the way and not have to think about it again, is perhaps leave a gift to Dementia UK in your will. But perhaps for me, the most important thing that you can do straight away after today is this. Go away and tell 3 people about Admiral nurses and Dementia UK. It is my passion, absolute passion, that we have more than one Admiral nurse covering the whole of North Wales and one Admiral nurse covering the whole of South Wales. And so I invite you to join me, to hold a fundraising event, to volunteer, to leave a gift, to tell people about Admiral nurses, so that we can raise enough money to have more than 2 Admiral nurses in the whole of Wales. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I haven't bombarded you with too many facts and figures. I hope I haven't depressed you talking about dementia. I hope that what you will take away from this is David and Mary's story, that it's not the end of the world, and that when you are diagnosed, when your friends, when your family, when anyone you know is diagnosed, Dementia UK and the Admiral nurses are genuinely there to help you. Thank you so much for listening. And I think if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. I'm very new to doing all of this, so I hope the presentation has worked. It's the first time I've ever done one on Zoom. But if you have a question, please pop it in the chat box and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks for listening. Okay, folks, as there don't seem to be any more questions, I'm going to let you go, but I am just going to remind you before I go again to say, please, please, please go away today and tell people, oh, hang on. If your nan in Australia is showing signs of dementia, please ring the helpline. please arrange a virtual clinic. They will talk to you. They will talk to the whole family. But please, folks, go away, tell people, please tell people. Abigail, yes, that would be me. I would be the person that would come to Abigail. Quite happy to do that. I'll just hang on a bit longer then. I forgot you have to take time to type, sorry.
We've a question on the Q&A, Linda, from Mark. How do you become an Admiral nurse?
If you go onto the Dementia UK website, they will show you where the vacancies are and what the training is needed, and they're always looking for people. How can I be a volunteer in Dementia UK? That one's another easy one. If you go onto the website, go onto the drop-down menu, and it will say how to become a volunteer. And I say there's very, very many different ways that you can volunteer. We're always after volunteers. Yes, Sharon, quite. Who do I give my details to so these people can contact me?
If you pass them to Tamara.
Yep, okay.
That would be great.
Yeah, if I do that and then people who are asking for me, if you can pass it out, that would be really, really helpful. Okay, that's fine. But yes, I'm happy to particularly North Wales, more than happy to spend my time going around North Wales. There is an equivalent to me in South Wales. There is an ambassador in South Wales. Again, if I give you that information tomorrow, you could perhaps pass that one out. But I think there's 2 of me in South Wales. There's only me in North Wales. So if you are in North Wales and you fancy becoming an ambassador alongside me, I would most welcome you. Okay, folks, if that's all the questions and responses, let me thank you again for listening to me, and really just to say, please go and tell people. Thanks a lot. Bye.